live.
Hello, it's Ed. Thanks for joining me. I hope you're well. You find me today, and in fact for the whole of this week, on the gorgeous island of Gran Canaria. Lucy and I are here for an anniversary trip away and an escape from the grey and the gloom of Stockport and Manchester. So I wanted you to join us just for a little bit of that trip. And what I want to be talking about as I go along, because you know I love to pontificate as we go along, is what it is to be a tourist taking photographs in a holiday location. And is that different from being a travel photographer? Is that different from being a street photographer? Is that different from being a documentary photographer? I have with me my Olympus XA1 because it's the simplest camera and the smallest camera just to take away and around with me as I travel. I have some ProImage 100 film. It's very slow film. It's supposed to be very good in hot weather. Also, all this film has gone through the airport x-rays, and it will be going through the airport x-rays on the way back. Lucy's as well. It's just the way we do things. So there might be nothing on this film. It might be blitzed, but I thought 100 speed film had the best chance of survival. Lucy has got 200 speed, she's got ColorPlus, she's got Kentmere, and she's got 3 film cameras, which we'll see as we go along, or at least a couple of them, I would imagine. I also have, just in case none of this comes out, I do have my digital with me. I've got the Canon EOS R7, and I've got with it a 28mm lens, a 50mm lens, and a 16mm lens. APS-C camera, so that equates to 1 wide angle, 1 normal, 1 telephoto lens. So all angles covered, and also the iPhone, so we can both shoot some iPhone pictures, and hopefully we'll have something to show you, even if it isn't the beauty of grain and film. So let's start our adventures with a wander along the coast to the dunes of Maspalomas, one of the most famous sites on Gran Canaria. I've got my EOS R7. Lucy has a couple of film compacts stashed away in her bag. So one of the key things I have to keep reminding myself when I'm on holiday, taking holiday photos, is to remember the craft. It's so easy to just be stunned by all the things around. There's so many things that are interesting, so you just point your camera at them and think, that's interesting, I'll take a picture of something interesting. But you have to remember to use the same techniques that you use the rest of the time. The subframing, rule of thirds, converging verticals, layering, all that sort of stuff. That's what makes a photo interesting in itself, and a sense of narrative, if there is one, something that tells you something or raises some questions about something. But at the same time, it's a holiday, so don't beat myself up too much about it if I forget all those rules and just think, that looks stunning, let's take a picture of it. So just to give an example of what I mean, over here, there's a lighthouse. I don't think it's a real lighthouse, but I could just take a picture of it high up, or I could get down behind these rocks and use those to frame it. I think that's what would make a better result. So here's the one shot from normal height, and I'm not sure actually, you probably win more points in a photography competition with the second shot because you've got that bold subject in the foreground, but I actually think the other shot has a bit more peace to it, has a bit more space to it, and I kind of like that, maybe because it's not quite the cliche. But to be honest, I don't like either of them that much. The colours just don't feel quite right for me. And that brings me on to my choice of bringing a different camera with me on this holiday. The results that I'm getting aren't quite as I'd like them straight out of the tin. Time for a little rest, I think. Just had a very steep walk up from the bay. Something that I have remembered from using the R7, which I haven't used for quite a while, is the difference in the colour science and the way that the images are processed from the Lumix. There's something about the Lumix colour science that I really like, and the photos straight out look great. This, I'm never quite as happy with the results. There's something about them that just seems a bit sterile, and that is easily dealt with in post. Just a little bit of tweaking with either presets or some special settings of my own. But it is something to bear in mind, because I am always slightly disappointed when I look at a picture from this and think, that's not how I remember it. Whereas when I get one out of the Lumix, it looks how I want it to look. It's got something of a classic look about it. Not film, but something approaching that delight. But I've been using Canon since they started doing digital cameras, and they're just so reliable, they're so effective, they've got everything you need on them, and I have all the lenses, so I'm not going to swap systems. But it is something that I have to remember not to be disappointed in my pictures as soon as I see them out of the can, because they will look a lot better after processing. Let's go and get a few more. I think Lucy has just caught me up on the steps there, so we can crack on. So I said I'd talk about the difference between being a tourist photographer and a travel photographer. And there is a big difference, because as a tourist, you are recording things for yourself or your family, and you are recording how you feel about it. If you're a travel photographer, you are trying to give an accurate representation of the place for people so that they can learn about that place for themselves. And if you're a documentary photographer, you have to understand the culture, the politics. There's a tendency to make the mistake of trying to do one of those things, but often that can backfire if you don't really understand the place that you are photographing. As a tourist, I am shooting personal experience. I am not trying to get under the skin of Gran Canaria. I think it would be very arrogant of me to think that I could do that, certainly on a trip of just a few days. So as we wandered down the coast, I took quite a few pictures of the really interesting buildings that you get on the sides of the cliffs, and this one in particular I found stunning. You could see it from all the way back where we were staying, and as we got closer and closer it became more and more interesting. We walked on through a couple of resort towns until we reached Playa del Ingles, excuse my pronunciation, but there I found something that really interested me, and it was the entrance to a lift to the Atlantic Beach Club, and there was a lovely opportunity for subframing because people were waiting for the lift in the little archway. There's one of the traditional seaside little shopping areas here as well, and I managed to get some nice pictures with the light coming through the window panes here, and I like the geometrics that you get and the geometrics that are formed in the shopping centre itself by the steel rails, the aluminium rails, I don't know what kind of metal it is, of the shopping centre, and the different coloured portions of the signs, so I think those work quite well. It was getting time to have something to eat, but we wandered on a little bit further because we knew that there was a McDonald's actually in Maspalomas, and it was a really interesting experience because I have never had a McDonald's next to the desert. There was a regular McDonald's, but outside there's a seating area with a glass pane, and it just looked out onto the sands, and it was a really lovely place to sit and enjoy our lunch. And Lucy got this lovely picture of a pigeon. The pigeons look a lot healthier there than they do here in Stockport and Manchester. I really like the way she has used subframing here, and lovely colours as well. The pigeon is isolated just in the perfect rule of thirds. Once again, Lucy showing me up, looking far more professional than me. But remember, this is a holiday and we're not trying to take professional pictures, so bad Lucy. You were trying too hard, obviously. When we'd had that bit of lunch, we wandered on to the dunes of Maspalomas themselves. You can drop down to them, and I managed to get a couple of shots before we got there. This is the car park just at the edge of the dunes, and there's the Hard Rock Cafe in front of it, so there's this weird guitar sticking out, and I think it's just an interesting perspective. And this one as well, a tattoo parlour just on the edge of the dunes, and a single figure stood there on a sandhill behind it. Really nice, but the dunes themselves were the main feature, and from here I wasn't going to get enough reach with my lens to be able to make out anything of any interest, so it was time to get a little closer. So as I'm on holiday, I haven't brought a massive 70-200 lens, so I can't compress the perspective and get amazing shots of the dunes here, but what I am going to try and do is use those posts behind there to frame the shot and make it work as a sort of subframe within the main picture. We'll give it a go anyway. So yeah, I think I've managed to use the post to divide the frame up. It's more interesting than just showing the sand, but it's not a great picture. This one I think is an improvement. I was using another bit of the railings, so there were 3 separate sections. I think that's quite nice. But my favourite is this one, where I used a bit of handrail to divide up the frame, captured a single palm tree in the middle there, and I think that works quite nicely. And the graffiti as well, showing that it's not just the middle of nowhere. And this, my favourite one, which was as we dropped down to the dunes, because there were some little cafes, restaurants, bars looking out onto it, and I think the way the people are framed through the glass of the bar looking out onto the barren desert looks quite impressive. And those glass panes really did need to be there because the wind was whipping up quite a lot of sand as we wandered through, and I actually put away my Canon R7 because I was worried that it was going to get sand in the mechanisms. Everything I shot from here on was just with the XA1. So jeopardy over with, because as you can see, yes, the X-ray machines didn't cause any problems whatsoever that I could see. Now, I believe that the Current X-ray scanners are supposed to be okay up to about 1600 ASA, but I have also heard that those scanners are going to be replaced with CT scanners. I believe that they will zap film in a way that the X-rays aren't doing. So this approach that me and Lucy have had up to now of just putting our film in the hand luggage and assuming that it will be fine, that might not be the case next time. So now I don't have to worry about any spoilers as to whether or not the film came out. I can show you some of the pictures Lucy took on her film cameras during the trip. These are the ones that she brought, all of them loaded with ColorPlus, except the Minolta RIVA Mini, which was loaded with Kentmere 200. And that is an interesting camera, and I'll talk about that more later. But here are a couple of pictures Lucy shot of the dunes. The first with the Ektar half-frame camera, so it's not great resolution, but you can see the contrast between the man-made environment and nature in the background, which I think is always interesting. And this one again, the people looking out. Unfortunately, I think Lucy got her finger in the frame on this one. So perhaps not the best start, but maybe I'm still feeling sore about that pigeon shot. And I think we both were feeling pretty tired and out of it after such a long expedition. We did 10 kilometres along the hot beach and seafront, so it was time to get a taxi home for a bit of R&R and a couple of beers before dinner. The following day, we had a big trip around the island to visit a few inland areas, and we wanted to be fresh for that experience. So it's our first stop of the day in Terror, and yeah, there's lots of interesting things to photograph. As a tourist, it is perfect tourist country, but we've only got 45 minutes here before we have to move on to our next destination, so I'm going to go and get coffee. And it was a really good coffee. I think the best coffee I had on the island, and Lucy agreed with me. It was a really nice little place, and our coach driver was actually having a coffee there as well, so we picked somewhere that the locals liked, which was nice. If only the coffee was a similar price in the cafes around the northwest of England. I quite like this shot. It gives you a feel of the cafe that we were in. It's not the most exciting shot, but I think as a holiday snap, which is what it is, it's quite a nice little memento. And I like this detail, which I took as well, of the orange machine. You didn't used to get these anywhere except foreign holiday resorts, and now they seem to be everywhere, so a little bit of a blast from the past for me there. When we got outside, there were some more shots to be taken. Lucy concentrated on some street scenes. I got this picture of a single figure walking down the street, and I quite like the sense of isolation. It fits with the sort of pictures that I take, and so it's a bit more than a holiday snap for me. This one, a little fairy house, I think it was. We've got some of these in Manchester, which people have put on their little doorsteps, so it's quite funny to see one in a completely different environment.
Nice house.
We had a little bit more time to walk around the town centre. There was actually a tractor festival or a potato festival going on in the centre, and there were probably some nice photographs to be taken around there, as I wanted to head a little further afield. Some great bikes. Yeah, not a fantastic shot, but you know I love motorbikes, and I couldn't resist the opportunity to take away a memento of one. And this shot I really like, of the pennants. I just think it's a really nice abstract, and I think it gives that hot feel that you get in these places. This, I guess, the closest thing to street photography that I shot that day. The tourist taking a shot and somebody who I imagine is a local looking on. The crutches, of course, just adding a little pop of colour to the red wall. But time to move on, as we had a long coach journey to wend our way up to the highest part of Gran Canaria, up where the volcano, I think, first erupted, and where we had another stop to take some photos and to grab a coffee. So we are now in Tejeda, which is the volcanic crater in the centre of Gran Canaria. There's been some fantastic opportunities to get some shots from our bus as we've travelled along, moving very fast, so...
Very windy.
Yeah, so I've been using the digital. It's not really a great place to do film because you're going to get lots of missed shots. I've probably missed dozens, but I hopefully have got one or two of the fantastic outcrop of rock, everything shrouded in low cloud. It's a pretty impressive sight, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's still very warm up there. I thought it'd be colder up in the hills, but it's still toasty.
Yeah, I'd say it's about 24 degrees and
Sunny.
And sunny. I might get the sun specs back on, but that would just be a way to make the cloud thicken, wouldn't it? Anyway, we're going to go and take a few more pictures, and apparently almonds are good here. We didn't get to sample any almonds, I'm afraid, but we did get a few shots, and this was a nice one, I thought, of the tourist in the red, the local in the blue, and the frame divided up nicely with that beam across the centre and the empty window frame. And this one taken by Lucy, some really nice composition here with the mountain in the background and the guy over to the right hand side of the frame. What I like is you can't see quite what he's doing. He's taking a photograph and you can probably work it out, but I like the fact that there's a little bit of mystery there, and the way the frame is divided up and the fact that the colour tones all work together is just really, really nice. Well done, Lucy. Our trip around the island continued after that, but there wasn't anything particularly exciting to photograph on the rest of that day. And in fact, some of the most interesting photographs that I took, I think, were actually around the resort. I made a point of not taking any pictures of people who were holidaying around us. I felt they were entitled to enjoy their holiday without being photographed. But as a tourist, I wanted to take pictures that reminded me of my holiday. And my holiday wasn't really travelling around the island and visiting things. It was mainly lying on a sun lounger, drinking a beer, or having something to eat, or wandering to and from our little chalet, seeing how the longer term residents had decorated their little bungalows. And of course, taking pictures of Lucy, my wife. You would not put that in a collection of photographs, but for me, it's a lovely summing up of the holiday that we had. And I think Lucy must have felt the same too, because her pictures from around the resort tell a very similar story. Certainly me drinking a beer. And both of us took lots of pictures at sunset on the resort, Lucy getting some lovely golden and purple hues, and me perhaps getting something a little bit more sinister. This was shot on the last day we were there, and it rather reminds me of the cover of the Eagles album, Hotel California. I don't know if you can see it yourself, it's not identical obviously, but it just has that vibe to it, and maybe it was how I was feeling on the last night. I often feel when I'm about to come back from holiday that I can check out but perhaps never leave. But as always to date, despite a few little hiccups, we did make it back. But I'm getting ahead of myself. There's still plenty of the holiday left to photograph at this point. So here you find us on yet another bus on our way to the port of Magan, which is known as the Little Venice of Gran Canaria. And it certainly does share some of the attractiveness of Venice with the painted houses, the waterways and the little bridges. As always, we only had a short amount of time to spend in the town, so after a quick coffee we headed for the high ground to try and get a nice view out over the port and get our bearings. There are truly lots of photographs to take in Magan. It's absolutely gorgeous, but we've got so little time here. We are just here for the day and only part of the day, so we're never going to get under the skin of the place, but there will be some nice holiday photos, and hopefully there'll be one or two a little bit arty, a little bit crafty, which I will enjoy looking back on in years to come. And yes, here there are a few that I like. There's some nice geometry in this one and some nice colours and shapes in this one. Lucy got this lovely light bright set of steps with these beautiful colours heading up through the winding streets. And she also got this really interesting little shrine which had water pipes running across the crucifix in such a way as to make it look almost like an art piece. And of course, as you know, I'm a big fan of cats, and there were plenty of cats in Magan and Gran Canaria in general. And this particular cat puss was obviously feeling a little bit hot and tired in the midday sun, as was I. So time to just stop for a little rest. And one of the things about shooting a holiday the way you experience the world is something I'm going to do a video on just in itself, which is in my holiday snaps. There's a preponderance of stop signs, CCTV signs, all those things that are telling you what you should and shouldn't do. I show that in my holiday snaps because I feel that very much in my life in general. It may look like there is danger everywhere, but that's not because there is here, it's because there is here. And that is my view of the world. So talk about things that appeal to you in particular. Got all these slats and they're creating this pattern here. And I think a lot of people would not think much of that, but for me, that is what my photography is often about, those geometrics, using the light itself. So I'm going to get a picture of that now. And yes, I'm quite pleased with how this turned out. I took another one in a vertical orientation, but this is my favourite, the stripes leading the eye through the frame. And if you didn't know what it was, I think you might have to think a little while, and that's what I like to do, is to raise a few questions in these geometrics, or urban abstracts as I used to call them. Having done the top of the town, Lucy and I decided to head down towards the harbour itself and see if we could get some pictures around the painted houses on the main streets. Lucy's just headed off for a coffee, and it might be a good time now to tell you what I think about using this Canon R7, because as you'll have seen if you've been watching the videos up to now, I've been really singing the praise of the old EOS 1 film camera because it's so simple, so intuitive. Well, this has a lot of the advantages of it, but there are just too many buttons, too many dials, too much customization. I know I said I love customization, but too many customizable buttons for me to remember what I'm doing. It does have the 2 control dials, the one at the front and the back, but it's in a different place from what I'm used to. But the main thing is it's powerful, it does everything I need to do, it's quick. I usually only get this out for big events and holidays because it's quite cumbersome to carry. I'm using my EF lenses, so I have to use an adapter for the R body, and that makes everything a little bit bigger than I would normally like. But for holidays, it's perfect. So after reuniting with Lucy following her coffee, we headed to the port area and looked for some photographs of the more industrial side of what is a particularly touristy place. Here I'm going to do a little bit of subframing, try and use these baskets here to give context to the little boat there. I think this sums up the fishing area quite well. Got the little red boat there, you've got all the boxes which I think would have fresh catches in them, and these other photographs as well I think sum up the working part of the port area, and I'm really glad that we had a chance to see that before we headed back. At this point the R7 ran out of battery. It has fantastic battery power compared to the Lumix, but I'd taken a lot of shots. It was time to switch to the Olympus XA1 and see if we could get some nice filmic images using that. And this wasn't a great start. It's that thing about not being able to see exactly what you're taking a picture of when you can through an SLR. So it took me a little while to get my eye back in. But I like this one of the people waiting for the boat to take them away from McGann. It just shows that tourist experience without being supercilious in a way that I think some photographers can be when they shoot tourists, trying to show that actually they are slightly better than these tourists because they've spotted them doing touristy things. That's what you do when you're on holiday. You do touristy things. And we certainly bought all our souvenirs and went to all the tourist traps. And I have no shame in doing that. And I have no intention of trying to shame anybody else for doing it either. I think the ProImage 100 was a good choice to take to Gran Canaria. But sometimes just a phone picture is enough. And I really like this one, which I snapped of a guy having a little rest against a bit of the harbour furniture while he was waiting for his boat. So having taken lots and lots of photos, it was time to catch our boat, and it was a really interesting little trip along the coast, seeing these fantastic hotels. It's a really, really interesting place. We decided to take a rest from snapping when we got back to the resort, just had a few drinks, a really good pizza each, and crashed out for the night, because this was actually a holiday and not a photo shoot. So we are approaching the end of our adventures here on Gran Canaria, but we have got one last thing that we want to do, and that is catch a sunset. We've caught a few sunrises, but we've not really caught any sunsets because we've been on holiday, we've been in the bar, we've been at the buffet, we've been enjoying ourselves, and that is kind of the final bit of advice I would like to give to myself and anybody else who wants to take it, that when you're on holiday, you are on holiday. You're not a travel photographer being paid to get those golden hour shots. If you've not anything else to do, sure, go and do it. Tonight we're going to try and catch one, but enjoy it. It's fun, isn't it? It's good fun, and that's the main thing. Don't worry about the washed out shots taken in the middle of the day. That's when it's too hot to sunbathe and it's too early to have a drink, probably. So that's why you get those shots then. And I know you're supposed to go for the golden hour, you're supposed to go for the blue hour, but supposed to is not what holidays are about, are they, Lucy? No. So now we are going to go and maybe catch a last golden and blue hour, and then what are we going to do?
We're going to get pizza.
We're going to get pizza and padron peppers, and we are going to save at every last moment. But now let's crack on and see if we can get a few last pictures before we head off. So we wandered along the coastal path, and it is incredible how different everything looks when the sun is low in the sky. It is more beautiful, it is easier to get those great shots, and I was really glad that we'd made the effort to do this little walk. When we went past the Pirate Cove that we'd visited on a previous walk, the light was fantastic, and I got this shot with a single swimmer just caught in a shaft of light that was coming through a canyon that led to the beach, and the spray and the mist being thrown up by the tide coming in created this fantastic shaft of light. And Lucy also got a picture of this cove from a little bit behind me, so I think I'm actually in this picture. I do love the colours in here, and I do wish I'd shot on film, because I think the film look and the film grain really works here. After taking those pictures, we left the bay and walked down towards Playa del Ingles again, and we both shot the lifeguard station again that we'd shot in the middle of the day before, but it looked so much more interesting in the evening light. And this picture that Lucy took with the couple sat looking out to sea, or perhaps looking at their phones actually, really works because of the splash of red from the lifeguard station and on the top of the woman sat there. Lucy, because she was concerned that all her photographs she was only shooting film wouldn't come out, quite often took an iPhone picture at the same time as she took a film one, just to be on the safe side. And I think if you look at this, you'll see that actually the composition of the iPhone picture is better, and it's that thing about being able to see exactly what you're going to get. With the rangefinder, you're always slightly off, but the colours and the grain is so much nicer on the film photograph. So it is that thing where, which would you keep? I don't know. It's so hard, isn't it? And this is the one that I got, which is not as nice as Lucy's. I think they're really striking, those pictures, but it's more my kind of thing with the silhouetted figure walking past the lifeguard station, and there's a bit of mystery there, there's a bit of narrative there, and the evening light showing through. It's interesting to see how different the light looks on the Canon, because these shots were taken at exactly the same time, and yet the colour balance in my shot is completely different from the colour balance in Lucy's. But maybe that's just my post-processing, I can't remember. Walking along this bit of beach, there's actually a resort, and it has glass panels to protect the people sitting behind from the wind blowing sand at them, and perhaps people coming into the private area. And I was trying to use the reflections from those glass panels. So I think this works quite well, but I think Lucy's picture, again, it's that film look, it really works. I think that's my reflection there, and it's got that lovely division of the two halves. Now, I said I was going to talk about this really interesting camera of Lucy's, wasn't I? But I think I will save that for another occasion, and maybe if Lucy will let me borrow her camera, do a whole video on it myself. But here's another shot from the R7 where the sun was breaking through a bit of cloud that was arriving now as the sun was just starting to go down. It looks like our plans for a sunset may have been slightly foiled by the cloud, but we have had some beautiful light and some really nice contre-jour shots to end the day, so all good really, and there's still a little bit of time things might change. Things didn't change, but I did get this really nice picture of the beach with the sun reflecting off the wet sand. It's not just a picture of people on the beach, it's the idea of there's one single person looking down, looking a bit sad, and there's two people together looking happy. And that mood is mirrored in the fact that the side with the single figure on is kind of blue and the side with the couple on it is kind of golden. And that's not something I've added later, that is actually how it was. And also that side is slightly lighter than the side with the single figure, who fades more into the background. So yeah, it's not an amazing photograph, but I'm quite pleased with that. And here's another example of how a particular place can look much better in a different light. This is that lift that I photographed earlier where I caught the person in the little archway. Well, there's a little person in the archway here as well, just lit by the artificial light because the sun has gone down over there, and you've just got the little bit of light in the sky to the left, and I really like that picture. I also managed to use the low light capability of the R7 to get a nice picture of the beach with the sun loungers on it, still set out there, but in complete darkness and just the illuminations of the nightlife area. And this last shot, which is a beach volleyball game that was just finishing and they were taking the net down as the evening came in. So that was a lovely way to end that little photo shoot. And we went off and had a little drink and headed back to the resort, ready to pack our bags to fly back to England the following day. So that's about it from Gran Canaria. Thank you so much for joining me and Lucy on our trip around the island. I hope you enjoyed seeing some of the sights with us, and I hope you liked seeing some of the photographs that we took along the way. I also hope that you were able to take something from what I had to say about how you might want to approach your travel, holiday, tourism, photography in future. I'd be really interested to hear what you think about what I said, so please do drop me a comment in the comments section if you get a chance. And of course, please do like, share and subscribe, because that really does help me out. out. Next time, I'm probably going to be talking to you about my latest book project, which I'm calling Hypervigilance. So please do join me for that. And until we meet again, just take care of yourselves and enjoy what you're shooting. Bye for now.